a problem with that myself. I would say it also depends on his build. If he goes for some sort of it also depends on his build. Bad grammar's bad. When he goes for one Rex and then the fast +1 and then adds on for your mutalisks to push you and to force you into seconds, which is why you should try to make links against that. He shouldn't be that aggressive with his pretty much safe to defend. So two X opening, so you can counter him his push with links. It will mostly throw off the people who attack it, or
encounter with Zerglings up until
not make, if he wouldn't play aggressively and you don't make things, there isn't advantage you get until mid game. reasonable economy against this opening, so you can win it in a late game because which also means don't work that much on having extremely good APM and overall we have one macro stuff instead of
player dragon. So